All right, welcome to the live stream. I'm going to be talking about the latest healthcare disaster yet again. It appears as though Republicans will fail, at least for now, to repeal the Affordable Care Act, a major campaign promise of Donald Trump. I'm going to get into all the details. I will also be taking your questions via Super Chat more in a moment. You might notice that there's a new painting on the wall from the last time that I did the live stream. Just a little something I painted over the weekend. No, I'm kidding. It's a real actual painting that some real artist made. But you don't care about that. We're here to talk about healthcare and Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump. If this is your first live stream, I will let you know that it's really live. I'm really doing this right now and talking to you right now. Assuming it's 6:30 p.m. Eastern time on June 27th. If it's some other time, you may be watching a replay of the live stream. Number two, Super Chat is on. You can use the $ at the bottom of the chat window to send questions, comments. I will address them. I will answer questions and respond to comments. Super Chat is on. By all means, use it. Number three, new members and patrons who sign up during the live stream, I will thank you live on the stream. I will sing your praises live on the stream because that is how the program is funded. So you can find out more about membership at davidpakman.com/membership, patreon.com/davidpakmanshow for information about Patreon. And please don't troll, okay? Obvious trolling and hate, it's just going to get you blocked. There are a number of moderators scanning the chat, and if indeed they identify obvious trolling or hate, they will just block you, or they may time you out for 5 minutes. It's really up to them. They've been fully deputized by me to do what they feel they need to do to keep the chat under control. Subtle trolling probably won't get you banned because it probably won't even get noticed, okay? So that is that, and we will jump into the Super Chat in a little bit and into new member thank yous and all of that stuff. But let's talk about what's going on with the Republican health care bill. So, backstory. I don't even know where to start. Between World War I and World War II, for lack of a better place to start, this for-profit, employer-connected healthcare system sort of became fully ingrained in the United States. And there was a time there, as Wendell Potter writes in his book Deadly Spin, and I've interviewed him about this, there was a moment in the United States between sort of after, at the end of World War I, before World War II, where it was feasible, it was possible that the United States would go with a more European model, a single-payer type model or government healthcare type model. But at the time, the proposal that was floating around the United States simply sounded too much like what was being done in Germany. And at the time, of course, Germany was our adversary, and partially because of the optics, the United States decided to go in a different direction. Skip to the 1990s. I mean, this is like the most compressed history of healthcare in the United States, right? Skip to the 1990s, and at that point you saw conservative think tanks propose this idea of a mandate that was really now, as part of Obamacare, is portrayed as this left-wing, extreme left-wing thing. But the reality is that it's pretty conservative. It's pretty pro-business to say, hey, here's an idea. The government will mandate that citizens buy a product from for-profit companies on which profit is made. Somehow, as part of Obamacare, the right has denounced that as right-wing, but it's actually a conservative idea from the 1990s, okay? We get Obamacare. Tens of millions of new customers are given to these for-profit insurance companies. Is it a panacea? No, by no means. We should have single payer. We should have had a public option. We didn't get any of it. The reality is that Obamacare is a slightly less conservative tweak to what we had before Obamacare passed. Republicans hate it. Trump hates it. Blah, 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 blah. So now you have a situation where Donald Trump runs on repealing and replacing the Affordable Care Act. He made promises like everybody will be covered, costs won't go up, coverage won't go down, quality of care won't go down. He won, and now they have a problem. And the problem is that most people like the Obamacare provisions, right? Most people like can't be charged outrageous fees if you have pre-existing conditions. Most people like 26-year-old, you can stay on your parents' insurance up to age 26. Most people like there are what we call sort of essential services, medical services, that are covered for everybody with no copay. Most people like your annual physical has no copayment. People like most of these things. What don't people like? People don't like the personal mandate, and people don't like the employer mandate. And they don't like those because they feel like it's the government telling them they have to buy a product. But what many of those people don't understand is without those mandates and without the taxes on the very rich to cover part of the costs, none of it works. None of it works because you have what's called a risk pool, and you have actuaries that figure out what's the total amount of money that needs to come in. It's a very elaborate mathematical field. And without the mandate and the taxes on the rich, none of it works. So what's the problem now? We had American Health Care Act proposal number 1. CBO scored it. 24 million people were going to lose health care coverage, and premiums maybe would go down slightly after 10 years. Maybe they wouldn't. Okay. Fails miserably. Donald Trump ends up sort of stepping back and saying he wasn't really involved, even though Paul Ryan said Trump was involved, blah, 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 blah. Now we've got American Health Care Act proposal number 2. Passes the House about a month ago. They pass it before the CBO even scores it because it was going to be a disastrous scoring from the CBO. CBO scores it a couple of days later. They say 23 million people are going to lose coverage over the next 10 years. Go from 24 million people losing coverage to 23 million people losing coverage. We don't hear anything about it for a month, partially because it's scandal after scandal after scandal for Donald Trump. Finally, the Senate takes it up, and the Senate says, we're going to modify it. We're going to improve upon version 2 of the House's American Health Care Act. We finally get a scoring from the Congressional Budget Office, and it says not 24 million people will lose health care, not 23 million people will lose health care, 22 million people will lose health coverage. Some because without the mandate will choose not to have insurance. I don't intend to hide that from you in any way. But 22 million fewer people will be covered after a decade. Disaster. Mitch McConnell, Senate Majority Leader, says we're going to vote on this thing before the 4th of July break. We're going to get this done. A few Republican senators, including Susan Collins of Maine, says, yeah, I can't support this. I'm not going to support this. Numerous Republicans start to come out of the woodwork saying, we're not going to be able to support this. And the breaking news as of just hours ago is that there will be no vote in the Senate on the Republican health care bill before the July 4th vacation. It's just not going to happen. It would not have passed. And Mitch McConnell now has to go back to the drawing board. And Donald Trump commented, he said negotiators are working on it. They're, quote, getting very close on a deal, that Obamacare is melting down as we speak. And it's all the same tired talking points that are becoming increasingly problematic for Donald Trump because he ran on a promise to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act. He needs to do something to not suffer the political repercussions now. But if 22 million people lose their health insurance, many millions of those before the 2020 reelection, potential reelection of Donald Trump, that is going to be another political problem for Donald Trump. And the problem that you have here is he promised something that is impossible. This is not this is not Democratic obstruction of this bill. Donald Trump last week tried to blame Democrats for obstructing this bill in the Senate. At the time, Democrats hadn't even seen the bill. Other than the 13 Republicans working on the bill, Republicans hadn't seen the bill. So Donald Trump is trying to frame the delay in repealing and replacing Obamacare as Democratic obstruction. But the truth is, the Republicans have the House, Republicans have the Senate, Republicans have the White House. And the reason they're not getting consensus is that the promises that were made are impossible. Think about it for a second. You can't move to the right if Obamacare is your starting point without someone losing. Donald Trump promised nobody is going to have inferior care, lose insurance, or have their premiums go up. Just think about it for a second. If you start with Obamacare, which says you can't charge people more if they have pre-existing conditions, if you remove that requirement and insurance companies all of a sudden can charge people more if they have pre-existing conditions, That's a capitalist victory, right? But some people now won't be able to afford health insurance, so you will have people who lose their insurance as a result. If you say, well, okay, we're going to keep the pre-existing condition aspect of it, but we are going to eliminate the Obamacare subsidies or reduce them or something like that. Okay, well, some people can no longer afford health insurance, so their health outcomes are going to be poorer, and their ability to afford insurance is going to go away. If you allow companies to keep costs the same for most people, but you say they don't have to participate in an Obamacare exchange or what have you, which may have a lower profit margin. Well, great, the profit margin for these insurance companies will go up, but now you've got people who might have been able to afford a plan through the Obamacare exchange and now no longer can. You cannot do any of the things that the American Health Care Act seeks to do without some combination of costs going up, coverage becoming inferior, or people no longer being able to afford and or getting kicked off of their health insurance. You just can't do it. So this is a problem of overpromising, promising something that is impossible, and now having to deal with the political repercussions of, well, I promised I was going to repeal this thing, and it's not happening. But at the same time, if we pass what's been proposed so far, millions of people are going to lose their health coverage. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? And now it is a serious political issue for Republicans. So I do not feel bad for Republicans. This is a problem of their own creation. This is a problem they created by, for years, having these bogus symbolic votes about repeal Obamacare in the House and blah, 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 blah. Even if it had passed, it would have never passed the Senate. Barack Obama would have vetoed it. All of a sudden now they can do it. And it is Republicans that can't agree on how, because it will destroy many of their constituencies. That's the overview, okay? Let's jump into the Super Chat. We've got a $25 Super Chat here from Jerry Cifuentes with no comment or question. Jerry, thanks very much. I appreciate the support. GameFire74 has sent a $6.45 Super Chat. And of course, Super Chat involves using the $sign at the bottom of the chat window. GameFire74 asks, shouldn't Mitch McConnell go back to the Galapagos so he can be home with his friends and family? Will he keep trying to ruin healthcare in the United States? Short answer is yes, GameFire. That's exactly what Mitch McConnell is going to try to do. He is going to try to get the votes together after making some amendments. So this, actually, I'm glad you're bringing this up. There's a couple of articles out, including one from CNN that I am linking to in the description to the live stream, where Mitch McConnell says he wants to make some changes and put in some amendments and have American Health Care Act Senate version 2 rescored by the Congressional Budget Office. And again, the problem is, unless you do something totally different, like a public option, increase subsidies, add taxes on the rich to offset the costs of healthcare, go in the direction of single payer, unless you do that, maybe you can get from a $22 million a 22 million person CBO estimate of health insurance loss to 19 million or 18 million or 17 million. You're not going to get more people covered doing any of the things that Republicans want to do with this bill. So yes, GameFire, Mitch McConnell is determined. GR has sent a $5 super chat. Pac DZ, there's an amount of disturbing that I have to make clear. Back the story, Pacman. If there's one thing you do today, back the story. Love GR. I have absolutely no idea what GR is talking about. And then GR following up with another $10 super chat saying, if you have a moment, let GR make it clear to that moment that every moment counts. This moment counts. I can't be more clear. Tramp Nasty Orange. The man is orange. Don't forget. Love GR. All right. Well, thanks, GR. Very, very much appreciate that, although I can't quite make heads or tails out of it. Frank McWright has sent a $20 super chat saying, since it has been proven by the CIA and others that Russia did indeed meddle in the election, by that fact alone, doesn't it absolutely affect the outcome? Maybe not votes exactly, but surely it's tainted. I don't know that I agree with you, Frank. And I want to be super clear. You know, people write to me, they say, David, you know, you're in the tank for I don't even know who, the Dems or someone on this Trump-Russia thing, and X hasn't been proven, Y hasn't been proven, and you're ideologically committed to it. I honestly don't care about pushing a narrative if it is not backed by fact. So I want a full and complete investigation to take place into Trump-Russia collusion so we can know the truth and then decide what to do with that. I believe that there is no doubt whatsoever, and I did a segment on the show today about the 4 paths that Russia took to attempt to influence the 2016 election. Whether they changed the eventual results is a different question, and it's actually not the key question right now. And I think that that's where I would sort of disagree with you, Frank, which is just because Russia made numerous attempts to meddle doesn't mean that the results are necessarily tainted. And once again, when you think about why Vladimir Putin would want Trump elected, right? Why would Putin want Trump to be president of the United States? Because he's weak, he's a buffoon, he's clueless, and he's manipulable. Given that, it's not necessary that Russia coordinate with Trump specifically to achieve their desired outcome. It's possible. We can imagine situations where they would do that, but it's not necessary. And what I want is to uncover the truth. And what's abundantly clear is that the Trump team has been making numerous efforts to obstruct a full and fair investigation. That is what we know, and hopefully at this point we'll figure out what the truth actually is. DJ Murray has sent a $10 super chat by using the $sign at the bottom of the chat window. No question or comment. Very much appreciate the support, DJ. Frank McWright has sent another $20 super chat saying, what has been proven to be falsely reported by CNN, MSNBC, CBS. Oh, I'm reading this with the wrong inflection. What has been proven to be falsely reported by CNN, MSNBC, CBS, and not been retracted or corrected? In other words, has there been any real fake news that the major news networks are standing by? No. And we had this recent story from CNN that they retracted and 3 people resigned over. But by and large, the reports that we've seen on Trump-Russia from the New York Times, from the Washington Post, from numerous media outlets, over time, we still have a list of assertions that are as yet unproven. We have no assertions that have been disproven, and we have a growing list of assertions that have been proven. And I think that that's a really key point, Frank, which is there have been no major Russia narratives which we've read about and then found out, you know what, it was untrue. There's stuff in the Russian blackmail dossier that has not yet been proven, and maybe it's not. Does Donald Trump like to urinate on Russian prostitutes? Maybe not. It hasn't been proven. But there's been nothing definitively disproven. Part of it is the complexity and difficulty of sometimes proving negatives, and that's something that we're just going to have to sort of contend with. But over time, more and more aspects of that Russian blackmail file are corroborated. The Michael Flynn stuff, the Michael Cohen stuff, on and on and on. So a very, very good point, Frank. Mark Stanners has sent a £2 British super chat with no question or comment. I appreciate that, Mark. So that is, we are caught up on super chats, and I will absolutely get back to those. Let me say a few thank yous to some very, very special people, okay? We have a program that is funded mostly by our audience, okay? And we used to be funded much more by YouTube ad revenue because of the YouTube ad calamity that started on March 31st. We've lost about 2/3 of our ad revenue. And what we're doing as a result to try to keep the program unaffected by that is talking, number one, about the David Pakman Show membership program. This is something you can sign up for on our website at davidpakman.com/membership. It costs as little as $6 a month pre-discount. and as little as $60 for the year. We do produce an entire extra show every single day for our paid subscribers. It's called the bonus show. Members also get daily, full-hour, commercial-free episodes of the show. Instead of having to deal with the 3 to 7 minute YouTube clips, you get the entire show as one long clip. Only members get that. And we do have a coupon code available, which is IVoted17. It's all one word and all lowercase, and you can enter that on the second page of the sign up at davidpakman.com/membership. Whenever people sign up during the live streams, I thank them and talk about what great people they are. And at the top of that list is Will Alberts. Will Alberts signed up just minutes into the live stream today, and he opted not to use the coupon code. And again, whether you use the coupon code or not, that is not the important thing. The important thing is you sign up and you pay something, because that is how we are counteracting the YouTube ad boycott. Will Alberts opted to get a level 2 monthly membership at $12 a month, and I really, really appreciate that. Klaus Reimert has signed up for a $60 a year membership, opting to use the coupon code, dropping it down to just $36 for the entire year, okay? Gerard O'Neill has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership for $6 a month. Gerard, thank you. Thank you so much for signing up. And lastly, Christian Adrianus Meermans has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership, opting not to use the coupon code. And that is a really, really great thing that Christian has done. Now, if the entire membership thing feels like too much, or it's too expensive, or you just want to watch the YouTube clips but you want to send us a couple bucks, there is another option. And that option is to go to Patreon. And you can go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show. We have surpassed the 1,500 patron mark, and for that we can all be very, very grateful. And you can make a contribution even as little as $1 a month. You can do at patreon.com/David Pakman Show, and that is very, very much appreciated. You will also get a thank you, even if you don't think for a second that if you can only contribute $1 a month, I will not thank you live on the stream. I will, folks. Believe me. Believe me. Let's jump back into the Super Chats because we've got more action there. GR has sent a $10 Super Chat saying, Pakman, I insist you speak aloud of the nonsense. The nonsense, DZ. Only if you want. Also, Rodrigo Clark is an OIF vet and would love a comment on the VA nonsense. Love GR. PS. You flow supreme. Okay, I can tell part of this is a compliment, although I can't tell exactly what it is about. But I'm going to keep trying to figure it out, GR. Thank you. And GR following up with I believe, his 4th Super Chat of the evening, saying, veterans, you are me. Be heard through my voice. Trump is a liar. Trump is a coward. You are not cowards. You are champions of spirits. As champions of spirit and courage. GR really knows his way around the English language, and really a message of support to the veterans and a message that I echo and can absolutely get behind. And it looks like Frank McWright is now explaining what the Rodrigo Clark super chat or message is, saying, I'm a disabled OIF veteran. Trump recently wanted to get rid of individual unemployability and needed veterans benefit. Please talk about how fake Republicans and Trump are towards veterans, please. Oh my God. I mean, I've been talking for years, Rodrigo, and thanks Frank and GR for facilitating that question from Rodrigo. I've been talking for years about how the meme of support the troops from Republicans for years has really been quite the opposite. When I think about what does it mean to support the troops, it means, listen, we are lucky enough in the United States to have enough volunteer members of the military that we don't need to have a draft, despite, in fact, the incredible number of military engagements that we have chosen to engage our troops in. Even considering that, we have so many veterans willing to volunteer, active duty and veterans who were willing to volunteer at the time, that we don't need a draft. So when I say, oh, let's take care of the troops, what I mean is let's make sure that we only risk the lives of our troops when it is truly, absolutely necessary. That means not going to into optional wars for dirty fossil fuels that we should have gotten rid of years ago. That means not ignoring issues of sexual assault against both male and female members of the military. That means taking care of our veterans when they come back, and taking seriously issues like PTSD, and taking seriously the VA and what's going on there. That's support the troops to me. Support the troops to me is not whenever the president says we're going to war somewhere, or lately doesn't say it but just does it behind our backs, to put a yellow ribbon on my car and say that I support the mission no matter what because I'm a patriot. That's not supporting the troops. So Rodrigo, thank you for your service. You were absolutely right. Point well made, and I wish we had more of that being discussed, but we just don't. GameFire74 is following up with an $11.39 super chat asking, pretend Trump is impeached, removed from power and jailed, because that makes me happy. What kind of damage would that do to the Republican Party? What happened to related to what happened to Republicans after Watergate, maybe? Here's the thing, okay? And this is why it's so dangerous for Democrats not to build a campaign of issues, a platform of issues now. And really, it should have been 6 months ago, but now is a better time. The best time would have been 6 months ago. The second best time is right now. If Donald Trump is going in the direction of impeachment and his approval rating goes down even more, it's not like Republicans are going to go down with the ship. You will see Republicans start to distance themselves. And so, yeah, there will probably be some Republicans who will be inextricably linked to Donald Trump, but some won't. And that's why it is really dangerous to assume that if Trump goes down, or if Trump's approval rating remains really low, it's bad for all Republicans. If Trump's approval rating remains in the high 30s, you'll probably see most Republicans stick with him, and because of gerrymandering and voter suppression, a lot of them will be reelected in 2018. However, if Donald Trump's approval rating keeps dipping, you'll start to see Republicans jump ship, and you already are seeing a pro-Trump super PAC target some Republicans who have not been as friendly to Donald Trump. It's already happening. So whatever the progressive strategy is, to the extent that the Democrats are interested in being progressive, and that's a whole other issue with its own set of questions, none of the strategy can depend on Republicans self-destructing. If they do that by putting forth by getting approved and passed and enacted a health care bill that will lead to 22 million people losing health insurance, Democrats can consider that a bonus and try to, as quickly as possible, fix it to get people covered once again. But we cannot be depending on Republicans being irreversibly damaged by whatever it is that Donald Trump does. It does not work that way. And I would be very, very concerned about Democrats continuing to do that. Let me get caught up on membership thank yous. As I mentioned earlier, the program is mostly funded by members and by patrons. Membership happens at davidpakman.com/membership, where you can read about all of the many, many, many member benefits. And just while we've been chatting here, we've had a number of additional members sign up. I want to say a big thank you to Nick Gutierrez, who has signed up. Nick, thank you. I want to say thank you to James Newman. James Newman has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. I want to say thank you to Christine Yeager. Christine Yeager has signed up using no less the 40% discount coupon code, which is I voted 17, and a major, major thank you. When I see this, it is just absolutely tremendous. Frederick Harris has just signed up for a level 4 yearly membership. That's what we call the big boy in the office. $480 for the year. Our biggest league single payment membership. And I really, really appreciate that. And you know what? Even the people who are donating $1 a month at patreon.com/davidpakmanshow, you are just as appreciated as those who have larger financial resources available to support the show. And on that note, I should mention, we've surpassed the 1,500 patron mark at patreon.com/davidpakmanshow. If and when we get to 2,000 patrons, I have already committed to doing an entire broadcast show in our studio, which will go out to our 200 radio and television stations. I will do an entire broadcast show with my hair like this. And, you're probably used to seeing my hair more under control the way it is right now. And the way that that's achieved is with the introduction of a little bit of product into my hair. Without it, this is what happens, okay? And this is a scary sight to many, many children, and I probably should have done some kind of warning before putting this up on the screen. But I will be doing an entire broadcast show at the studio if and when we get to 2,000 Patreon patrons. And that is something you can look into. And no, I was not by any means under the influence of any narcotics, psychedelics of any kind. People talking about my pupils look dilated here. They don't. My pupils are not dilated. Maybe in the picture they're sort of blending with the green part of my eye, but I assure you this was taken. I was of sound mind at the time, I guess is what I'm saying. Scary sight for many. Let me tell you a little more about what's going to be on the program tomorrow. So we are absolutely going to be digging into in even more detail to what we talked about today, the yet again another failure, another delay for the Republican health care plan. This time it's version 2 of the American Health Care Act, now delayed in the Senate. Mitch McConnell demanding a vote before the 4th of July recess. They have 3 days left. It is not going to happen. It is just not going to happen. I read a very interesting statement from Elizabeth Warren, where Elizabeth Warren is now saying Democrats should campaign on single-payer health care. I've had my critiques of Elizabeth Warren recently, and she was recently interviewed by Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks, and he asked her straight up, and I've got a clip about this you can check out, why didn't you choose, if you are most ideologically aligned with Bernie Sanders, Senator Warren, why didn't you choose to support Bernie Sanders during the primary phase of the 2016 election? And Elizabeth Warren basically did a non-answer, totally bogus non-answer. I didn't like it. A lot of progressives didn't like it. I've also been saying for several weeks, months now, that Democrats need to, really it's progressives within the Democratic Party to the extent that they exist, Democrats need to pick some issues and really go forward with a platform that is independent of we're not Trump, we're not Republicans. And I listed healthcare at the top of my list. And while I don't believe that under the current Republican-controlled House and Senate, we would even have a shot at single-payer healthcare, Democrats should be talking about healthcare for all. They can talk about H.R. 676 if they want. They can talk about single-payer healthcare as an ideal. And maybe you end up negotiating to something else, but you've got to be talking about everybody needs to be covered, essential health benefits covered, period. Everybody's got to be covered. And now Elizabeth Warren is saying, hey, what about Democrats making single-payer health care part of their platform, part of the plan for 2018 and 2020? And I agree with her. And I am not the type of person that, I'm not like Trump where I say, oh, either you're the best person or you're a bad person. I disagree with some things with Elizabeth Warren on some issues. I agree with her on other issues, and I think that this is something that she is absolutely right on, and we need to be talking about pollution and the climate as an issue of nationalism and patriotism, because the left is already going to support dealing with that, and that might be a narrative that appeals to the right a little bit more. I've outlined the entire thing, and I'm going to dig back into it tomorrow, okay? I also want to talk about a narrative that we have now seen on Fox News in a couple places. We've seen a Fox commentator as well as Sean Hannity over the last 24 hours start testing a new narrative on Trump-Russia, which is even if Trump colluded with Russia, it's not against the law. The fact that we are seeing numerous right-wing media programs shift tone from collusion with Russia, no evidence, Democratic witch hunt, blah, 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 blah. We're not seeing that as much anymore. We're seeing Donald Trump shift to, okay, there was collusion, but it's Obama's fault because he didn't prevent it, and it's actually Obama who did the colluding with Russia. That is now correlating time-wise with this new idea from at least a couple programs on Fox News of nothing illegal. Even if we find out Trump colluded, there's nothing illegal. And that is a shift that is meaningful. That is a shift that clearly relates to the changing evidence that has been surfacing. And I want to talk about that because I believe that that is absolutely a strategy. That is a strategy that we are seeing now from the right. Let me jump back into the super chat. Mark Stanners has sent a £5 super chat. In the UK, Liberal is center ground politically, and the NHS is great. Why are these ideas so bad in the United States? It's not just the UK. I mean, in many countries, what is considered far left in the US is basically middle of the road or center left. And what is uncontroversial, like, oh yeah, everybody gets health care paid through their taxes and you can work wherever you want or not, and you still get health care. That's considered controversial and communist or socialist in the US. It's not just in the UK, Mark, that it's not controversial. And it is a very important point, which is the Overton window of what's considered reasonable debate in the United States is shifted very, very far to the right compared to in many other countries. GR is sending a $10 super chat saying, truth hurts. I don't know where to begin. There's a line for your name. You could have fought with us, but you hid in shame. Our names went on the line. Where'd you sign? Thanks, DZ. Love, GR. I have no idea what that's about. I don't know what it is that was signed or not signed or whatever the case may be. I don't get it, GR, but I do appreciate the super chats and I do appreciate the support. Okay, my main thing today was going to be the healthcare bill, which has failed. We've talked about that. I am going to, I need to spend some time actually preparing for tomorrow's show. So we are cutting today's stream here. Thanks to everybody who chatted. Thanks to everybody who signed up and pledged at patreon.com/David Pakman Show and davidpakman.com/membership. And I will leave you with this. I will do a show with my hair like this in studio if and only if we get to 2,000 Patreon patrons. Doesn't matter the amount, just 2,000 patrons. Check it out at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Link in the description for the live stream.